Good morning. Recently, I said that uh, there is no distinction to be made between nature and human nature. That people try to make out that human nature is this is nearly separate from nature, but I say that there is no distinction to be made because we are nature personified. That all the characteristics that you can see in nature as a whole, you can see in humanity. From the ivy to the rose, from the mosquito to the elephant, all the different characteristics throughout nature can be seen in humanity. And I think it's very important to realize this, and then this is why when you understand nature, you can understand humanity. And this is why I say it's very important to realize that we are a part of nature and cannot be separate from it. And this is why I say philosophy supersedes psychology, because psychology focuses on the human psyche. But in order to understand the human psyche, you need to be able to understand all nature. Yesterday, I decided to do a bit of gardening. And I did like my garden and I liked the biodiversity, but yesterday I decided it was time to start taking some control because the ivy was just taking over everything. The ivy was taking over everything. It's a parasite. The ivy's a parasite. And though I did like the ivy and I trained it in a certain regard to climb the walls and everything else, it's just getting out of hand. It was starting to take over all the flower beds. And then there's another one, I don't know if it's an ivy or not, but it's called Morning Glory. Now Morning Glory looks well. It looks well, it's flowering there and it's growing up the poles and it's flowering and everything else, but it's also grown up through every other plant. Another parasite, like another parasitic plant and a pervasive plant. So I ripped it out from the ground. I ripped it out. I ripped out all the Morning Glory. I ripped out most of the ivy. I still left some ivy because I wanted to grow on the walls and things like that. But I ripped out a good bit of the ivy and I ripped out and when I was finished then and even though like I'm sort of ignorant in regard to what plants I wanted or didn't want in the beginning, now I'm starting to learn what plants I don't want. Do you know what I mean? Because I just don't want them. They don't even look that well. They're just overpopulating. They're not really that aesthetically pleasing. I don't, you know what I mean? So now I've decided to start imposing more of my will on the garden. I'm going to grow some roses for next year. You know what I mean? I'm going to grow some roses and I'm going to start determining the nature of change in the garden I'm going to start deciding the type of garden I want. Like initially, like I was thinking about growing vegetables and growing some food and all the rest, but I don't need to grow vegetables or any of this shite. I don't need this because the juice is not worth the squeeze. I can just go down to the shop here and buy fucking vegetables for a relatively reasonable price. Like I can go down and buy the best of organic tomatoes here in the shop. Why should I bother my arsehole putting the effort into growing tomatoes when I can just buy them here in the shop? But I would like some roses. I'd like some roses, and I'll see what goes with the roses. I'll see if I can grow lilies or when lilies grow, but maybe they're a bit dry for lilies. I have to educate myself in this regard. But I'll find some other flowers that I like. I might even rob a few. there's a world of flowers up the town there. Yeah. And then the grapes, like the grapes. Now I'm going to have no grapes this year. I'm going to have no grapes this year because the boy said to me, you have to spray the grapes 4 times a year, you know. And I sprayed them once in order to keep the leaves so I'd have the shade. But I'm not going to have any grapes this year. But and I kept saying to myself, why do I have to spray these grapes? Why do I have to spray these grapes? But the grapes have been hybridized. The grapes have been sprayed so much over the years that they've developed no resilience, because this is not natural at all. Like how can the grapes survive from day one if they're going to succumb to these funguses and these insects? Like like how did they ever survive initially? Like there hasn't been that much of a uh, of an evolutionary process that the grapes are no longer. But the thing is, once you start spraying them, they've no, like the humans, they've no resilience, they've no coping mechanisms, they've no resilience. So they now are being like, if I don't spray them, that they just, well, they succumb to this fungus, so I'm going to have no grapes this year. I sprayed them once to keep the leaves, and I said to myself, maybe I'll spray them next year. Maybe I won't spray them. I'll spray them next year the 4 times. But I decided, no, I won't spray the grapes 4 times next year. I'll go and rob someone else's grapes, the very same as I'm going to do this year. But I'm going to try and reverse the hybridization of this plant. The plant has to learn to build some resilience, and let's see, can I reverse this hybridization? That's what I'm going to try and do. That's yeah. I'm going to try and reverse this hybridization process. In other words, let them endure. Let them endure. Let them exposure therapy. Expose them to these funguses and these insects, and they'll just have to learn to adapt or die, or die. Yeah, I suppose you could say that's up to me. I could spray them, but I'm not going to spray them. And this is a choice I get to make. As I said yesterday, I'm going to decide now. It's time to decide who lives and who dies again. You know what I mean? This decides, what's of value to me in this garden. What's of value to me in this garden? Who lives and who dies? So I gave it a good, I decimated the garden. And it's looking a little bit sparse, but I'm happier with the results. As I say, I ripped up all the ivy and I ripped up all the morning glory, because as I say, I'm not saying that the ivy shouldn't do what the ivy does, or the morning glory shouldn't do what the morning glory does. These plants do what these plants do. These are the characteristics of these plants. The same as I have a choice with the mosquitoes as well. The mosquitoes are coming, biting. They're biting some guests. Well, I only have one guest, but they're biting the shite out of him. But they don't bite me that much at all. But those that do bite me, I've become resilient to them. They don't bother me at all. The mosquitoes don't bother me at all, unless they come in force, and then they force me to move, like they did yesterday when I knocked up all the plants. But then they force me to move because they come in numbers. But when they're just when they're just as individuals, they don't bother me. I can tolerate them. I have developed a resilience to them. Do you know what I mean? I've gotten bit that much that I'm sort of like the grapes should be. I have a tolerance for them. I have a resilience to them. Do you know what I'm saying? Now I have a choice. I could go down to town here and I could buy these smoke coils to mitigate the mosquitoes, or to protect the guests. I could start buying these smoke coils. I could start buying some lemon oil, or and maybe leave the lemon oil out for free, that the guests might alleviate their misery, with the lemon oil. Or I could buy some spray and I could kill the fuckers. But no, I decided to let them suffer. or they can take for themselves, and they can mitigate this themselves. Go down by their own fucking lemon oil, or go down by their own, do what they fucking like themselves. But I'm not there, as the man said to me here, I'm not your mother. Not to learn to think for themselves, but I'm not going to make any attempt to alleviate their misery or wipe their arse for them. No, I'm not going to wipe their arse for them, no. I have overcome, in the natural way, I have learned to overcome this. The mosquitoes don't bother me. I feel them for a little bit, and then I don't feel them at all. You know what I mean? I've evolved. I've evolved through the suffering. I've evolved. And they can evolve or not evolve, this is their choice. But basically what I'm trying to say is that these characteristics, the mosquitoes, the parasite, the parasitic ivy, like the mosquito is another parasite. I'd be the host, wouldn't I? Yeah, I'd be the host. Yeah, they feed on me. But all nature cannibalizes itself, And as I said, you can develop a tolerance for them, and develop a resilience for them, or you can mitigate this, you can deal with this, but you have to think about this, So humans are the same, And when I see these people coming on, like there was a post yesterday about everybody aspires to be a good person, and everything else. But this again, you see, I'm in a group now, and I didn't really want to be in this group, but I was talked into it, by because, well, I'm up in the gym. For example, and fucking, I'm up in the gym and someone came up to me the other day, two lads came up to me the other day and started to blow smoke up my arse about the amount of weight I was lifting and the kilos I was lifting and everything else, and said, oh, you know, you're like this, you're like a Superman and all. You should just going up and more weight, more weight, more weight. And I sort of said to myself, are you on drugs? Are you on drugs? I said to them, you know what I mean? Like, I'm struggling here for a comeback. Like, I'm not even close to where I want to be, where I should be. I'm not even close. I don't need this celebration of mediocrity. So I'm moving gyms now. I'm moving to a hardcore bodybuilder, you know, gym up the top of the town, because all this says to me is I've outgrown this environment. I've outgrown this environment. And then my soul started to use the same argument against me when it said to me, you know what I mean, to engage with these people in this group, you know, that I've outgrown the environment I'm in, and if I want to excel, if I want to improve, I have to subject myself to challenges, to challenges to other people's perspectives, and you know, basically maybe remove my head from my arse, and maybe these people have, I can learn something from these people, you know. So I got into the chicken coop, you know. And when you get into the chicken coop, if you put a cat in, like, you know, like my whole thing about these things is, if you look at the different characteristics, like pigeons flock together to fly in flocks, eagles fly alone. Now I'd rather be an eagle and I want to fly alone, but sometimes I'm just not allowed to fly alone, because I keep being subjected to these codependents. And as much as I tried to resist this, and this used to cause me a lot of frustration, this being subjected to these codependents, I used to say, why are you shackling me and leaving me as prey for these codependents? But I have to have this experience, number one. Number two, I have to learn that we're created for each other. And like, for example, like when I was subjected to these codependents, initially I used to say, you know what I mean, I'd rather starve. I'd rather fucking starve. And then the universe said to me, you're doing it to yourself. But you're doing it to yourself. You're suffering, you're doing it to yourself. This is pride. But this is not all out pride. It's not all out pride. It's just a willingness not to be dependent, not to be controlled. This is, I don't want to be dominated. I don't want to be controlled. And it's not all out pride. It's just values, and I value my freedom, and I don't appreciate being shackled for these codependents. But basically I've learned then that you have to adapt. You have to make the most of the situation, and given the earliest convenience, then at your earliest convenience, then you can break free again. But you know, you can take the experience from this, and you can, you know, there's no need to suffer needlessly, but at the same time you can make it work for you. You know what I mean? They're codependent, and you can allow them to be codependent. In other words, they want to feel valued, they want to feel dominant, and they want to feel dominant, like they want to be dominant, because they don't even think about this. Do you understand what I'm saying? They don't even think about this. They don't stop to think about this. They don't think about the codependency. They don't think about the dominant aspect. But yet when I challenge them on this, and we sit down and we talk, and I challenge them on the codependency, on the dominance, some of them actually say, yeah, but this is my nature and I have no wish to change. And I appreciate that, and I accept that, and I say, yes. So it's not just me assuming and making an assumption and calling them codependent. I sit down and I talk to them and I ask them, you know what I mean, is this the case? So I said, so basically, you are this. They say, yeah, this is nature, this is my nature, you know what I mean? And I say, yeah, that's grand. And now I accept this, the same as I accept the mosquito, the same as I accept the ivy. But at the same time, I can focus whatever is in my control. And at the earliest convenience, I will uproot them from the ground and dispose of them. And I will take control about what grows in my garden and what doesn't grow in my garden. And I don't give a fuck about anybody who tells me what it is to be a good person or not to be a good person. The worst thing I could be is too good. Beware the preacher, the genius of the crowd. I'm going to share the genius of the crowd now. I may go.